Hello and welcome back to the podcast. So today we're going to be talking all about recruiting and the recruiting process. So over the last 13 months, we've placed 18 or 19 analysts, and I think 4 or 5 of them have actually gotten their entry-level role through a recruiter. So I thought it'd be a really cool idea to pull a recruiter on. Jim, you're here locally in Greensboro, so I thought you'd be the perfect person for us to kind of have this conversation. So how's it going?
Hey, John David, appreciate it. Yeah, it's going well. It's going well. Happy to be on your show. Yeah, things are going good. Things are going good. Excited to learn about what you guys have been doing. When we met for coffee that one day, it kind of opened up my world to just another realm of recruiting, of employment facets.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
So your formal title is division manager, is that correct?
Yeah, division manager over our direct hire division. So we are a traditional staffing company.
Gotcha.
We do a lot of what they call light industrial work, which would be your lower skilled employees that are doing manual labor for the most part.
Gotcha.
That is the majority of what we're doing now. And then I'm in there. I'm the division manager for the direct hire division, professional level placements.
Awesome. Yeah, so I got connected to Gary, the CEO of the company that you're working for, and I went and checked out your website. So I know that you've got some open analyst positions that you're currently
we get those periodically. We get those periodically. I think with the way things are going right now, with the canvas of employment, that skill set is only going to become more needed in business, as they need to understand and really be able to take the data that they have and make it into something usable to help move the business forward with really educated decisions right now. Everything is becoming, as you would imagine, everything is becoming a lot more strategic, especially coming into this year. It's literally 2023 is different than 2022. And
I've felt that with my own company. It's the amount of people applying for the program. It seems Q1 of this year, it seemed like it just fell off a cliff. Things seem to be kind of recovering a little bit right now. I don't know if you're seeing something similar.
Yeah, same sentiment. Q1 this year was very, very, very different. It almost felt like, you used the term fell off a cliff. I would say, yeah, it felt like someone slammed on the brakes.
Right.
It felt like for me, and everything that took place within business, within hiring, with candidates in their searches. It was gangbusters in 2022, like I've never seen before, and that was probably a recoil from the pandemic. And now that the recoil has happened, now we're really things are settling. The playing field is being leveled out. Business leaders are kind of retooling their strategy, really. And they're being more thoughtful and direct with their hiring.
Yeah, we're in I don't even know if they have economic models for this, because how much money was pumped in? We've never shut down the economy and then pumped this much money into it.
Right.
It's like I don't know. It just seems like just completely upside down.
Yeah, and it was totally uncharted territory, right? When the pandemic hit, everyone was just kind of figuring it out as they went and making corrective actions along the way. And then the recall happened. Some people call it the Great Recession. If you want to call it the Great Reshuffle, where everyone was quitting their job, but they were really leaving for opportunities, and it became this land grab for the best talent, or just getting their talent ramped up. And people were paying a lot more money for the housing market boomed and prices went skyrocketing. Pay rates kind of skyrocketed and companies were fighting over talent.
Well, except unless you're in tech, because then there's a flattening there. hiring or freezes. It's been just wild. But we've got some guests, some people tuning on YouTube. So Raj, hey there. Michael, how's it going? Okay, it looks like we got a LinkedIn user. So I guess if they're on private mode or something. So Siddharth tuning in from Fairfield, Connecticut. And it looks like maybe that message twice. I'm not quite sure. But so Jim, what I wanted to do in this episode is I'm going to interview you on what your day-to-day is like.
Okay.
What you look for as far as red flags and green flags, maybe how people can approach recruiters. And then we're going to then bring the students on for a Q&A session.
Sure.
So kind of curious, what does your day-to-day look like? So are you mostly looking for candidates on LinkedIn, or are you going through job postings? Like how do you go about finding the talent to fill these roles?
That's a great question. So from my perspective, and our business model and the level of candidate we're searching on, I'm really direct targeting candidates primarily on LinkedIn. Where I pay for a special side of LinkedIn that the average user wouldn't have access to, where I'm able to reach out to people that are beyond my network and then also direct message them. And usually I'll have another facet of LinkedIn where candidates can upload their contact information and signal to someone like me that I am open to work. So primarily speaking, yes, I am direct recruiting through LinkedIn is what we do. Primarily what we're doing.
Okay, so I just had Bentley. I hope you're ready. I'm going to put you on the spot. We're going to pull up. First of all, I'm going to pull Bentley in, and I'm going to share my screen so we can actually take a look at Bentley's LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Bentley, how's it going?
Fantastic. How you doing?
Great, man. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
There we go. Oh, so I got some messages coming up. But yeah, all right. So this is Bentley's profile, and Jim, you're really going to be critiquing me because I've actually gone through. So Bentley, you're shielded. This is criticism heading my way.
That's all right. I mean, I've made a couple of little adjustments since we've gone over it. So,
gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jim, let's have kind of a conversation about LinkedIn and your lens or perspective as a recruiter. If you came across Bentley's profile, first of all, what's your first impressions?
I'm gonna have to zoom in a bit, but okay, it's clearly laid out what he does. Business analyst.
Okay, caveat question. There's been a debate on LinkedIn about should you put business analyst or aspiring business analyst if you're looking to break into the space. Would you see aspiring as kind of a red flag?
I would see aspiring as a way to be looked over.
Okay.
I would not put aspiring so that you're not, because so when I'm looking through profiles, honestly, I'm scanning. I'm scanning. I don't have time to look at someone's profile for 15 to 20 minutes. So when I'm scanning or sourcing or going through profiles, I like Bentleys. His picture is good. It shows me he has a personality. I like the background he used. It fits into what he does. I like the fact that he put business analyst. So when I'm scanning and I'm using keyword searches, it's going to pull him. To put aspiring, I don't know. That can come off almost negative, even though you maybe are aspiring. I'd rather, from a candidate standpoint, leave every door open to be reached out to. That makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay, so do you even look at the about section, or do you just kind of jump straight to the experience?
I would look at the about after I've determined that I'm interested in this candidate. So I like that you have it business analyst right there in front. Boom, boom. If I was looking for a business analyst, that already drew me in. That's drawn me in. What would that? So I see. Can you scroll down a little bit more?
Sure.
Yeah, you have your skill sets listed there. Yeah, so
Right.
obviously looking at it, I mean, yeah, you are aspiring. You don't need to tell me that. That's fine. And that's my opinion as from a recruiter, and I've been doing this for nearly 18 years now. You gotta be. Think of this as just a billboard. Is it going to catch my eye? You got to catch someone's eye, and then also have the keywords in there. I love that you have the keywords in there. That's huge because when we're doing Boolean search, keyword search, going through our filters, and we can plug in what we want to filter in or filter out. You've done a great job there.
Right. So the skills you can actually LinkedIn updated the settings so you can tie specific skills to different positions, and then there's a general skill section as well. It used to just be a skill section. So I imagine, Bentley, the fact that you've put business analysts or business analytics in a general and then tied to 2 jobs is going to help you in terms of search engine optimization. So Jim, if you type in business analyst, Greensboro, and Bentley's in the area, he's going to rank higher versus which it's interesting seeing how marketing concepts are getting really looped into the career space now.
Oh, 100%. It's getting looped into that space. It's getting looped into companies understanding, if they didn't already, branding their company to attract top talent, because that's playing into being able to attract top talent, and then also the education that when someone comes into the organization, if the candidate is gaining skills in that company, in their role, companies now understand their retention rate is much higher. So they don't have the risk of, oh, we hired Bentley, he's awesome, but because Bentley is awesome, Jim's tapping him on the shoulder going, Bentley, I got a new opportunity. But if his company is taking care of him and helping him develop his skills, the likelihood of him staying there is higher.
Right.
And companies understand that now. So they're pouring into their candidates more as well.
Yeah. And this kind of echoes something that I tell my students, because you'd be shocked at the amount of people who are applying for the apprenticeship program who have spent $60,000 on a master's degree.
Wow.
You should go and just get an analyst job, even if you feel like, maybe it's not, maybe if you want a data science job, you're not going to be able to jump right there. I don't think paying $60,000, potentially being out of work for full time for 2 years, so that opportunity cost of that income is going to get you there versus getting a data analyst role and then getting paid to acquire those skills and then pivoting from there.
Right.
I think that's a really good point, though. I didn't think about the benefit of why companies are paying their staff to actually develop skills.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's
now
retention.
They know a data analyst, I'm just kidding, but they figured it out that, hey, when we mentor and groom our candidates and give them skills and they're learning and growing with the org, they're going to stay put for the most part. Retention rates increase dramatically.
All right, that was cool. I'm glad that we got to, in real time, to kind of gut check Bentley's LinkedIn presence.
Hey, I think he's done a great job with his LinkedIn. It's obvious he's an up and comer, but companies want those up and comers. They really do. The old cliche. He hasn't developed any bad habits yet. That's one thing.
That's true, and that's something that that we talk about in our coaching sessions is you can take like something that's perceived as a weakness and actually flip it into an opportunity, like you just did there. Instead of saying, well, yeah, I'm really inexperienced, frame it as, oh, I actually don't have any bad habits that I've developed in another company. Right. So I think that's cool.
Companies, and this is beyond data analytics or data analysis, in IT, in engineering, the candidate that is up and coming and on a upward trajectory in their career, growth minded, those are very appealing right now to forward-thinking companies, because they know that they have fresh ideas and that business has changed dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Hiring has changed. The cultures have changed. The way things are looked at by the consumer, by other stakeholders, by population at large, everything's changing right now. So they love fresh ideas. They love candidates that can come in with a new perspective because everything is constantly new now.
It's funny that that concept literally happened to me 2 days ago where I had a corporate training client, and I was talking to the CEO, and he was talking about how they are approaching their email marketing, and it's $100 million company, so they have probably 10 to 100x amount of contacts in their email list. And I was like, oh well, I'm collecting my own email list. My email list is the number one way that I drive sales. And he was like fascinated by that. He was actually like, here, yeah, show me this. So I actually pulled out my, MailChimp, my email marketing provider, and then we went through the reports, and we just started talking about those ideas. It's really interesting though. The challenge there is that you've got to overcome being seen as just kind of like a minion, or somebody who's like they've got to kind of respect your opinion. And maybe you do that. You go about doing that by like getting results for a company, and actually doing some like really quantitative work that has an impact on the company.
Absolutely. You want to make that impact. You want to bring value. Companies right now, and they always have, but right now, they are looking for the skill set. They are looking for the skill set in their candidates right now. That's the strongest thing they're looking for is, hey, what is your skill set? Do you have the skill set?
Would you say skills outweigh a degree at this point?
I would say if they don't, they're really moving towards that.
Yeah.
Skills really do outweigh a degree.
Right. Because I think a lot of higher education is just kind of degraded in terms of, so Power BI is one of the main platforms I use. It updates every month to where, a huge university can't change their curriculum in real time. So it's just like a steam engine trying to like keep up with like a little jet ski. It's like, they're not nimble enough.
Right. True. And especially in industries that are ever changing, like you said, the companies, the organizations that are getting passed on are weighing too much on that degree or that level of higher education. When you do that, that's an archaic way of hiring, especially in such a fast-moving industry like analytics, right? So yeah, I would agree with you on that. Would I say that having a degree it's not going to weigh you down, but I think sometimes higher level is when you get into the masters, I almost think it might be a waste of time. If your end goal is to move your career forward and get into your career path, front loading your life with getting all these degrees and moving up into higher education and then trying to come back and get a job when someone who got their certificates is already in the job and they're far ahead of you because you haven't been in the role. You haven't experienced real work.
Right. So I have some thoughts on this because in my MBA cohort, it was about 50-50 between those who went directly from undergrad to grad school and those who had worked for 3 to 5, maybe 7 years and come back. Those who went directly from undergrad to grad, it was almost like an extended early adult daycare where it's like they need someone to like put together the structure and then here's your homework, here's your assignments. And they might have gotten straight A's, but they didn't quite engage on the critical thinking like I did versus when I came back from selling insurance. I was like, I know it. I don't want a 100% door-to-door insurance commission job. So I am going to develop skills and start. I was much more focused on getting internships, getting real world experience and a skill set versus, there were 2 kids who were just like fixated on, I have to be the valedictorian. And I think that like you hit a point of diminishing returns, like going from an A to an A plus is not worth the additional 20, 30, 40 hours worth of studying when you could be allocating that time to actually going out and working for a company.
Right. Would you say that getting into that workforce, your education really is growing more than someone who stayed in and got their MBA or went forward in higher education?
Well, one of the biggest lessons I learned during my MBA is that I can't work for a big corporation. I just don't like that environment.
The way they do everything.
Right. I'm much more entrepreneurial minded. I kind of like the rapid pace of change versus like, and part of it, maybe it's like I was younger then too. So I was less concerned about security and, that kind of value point. It's like I didn't have a kid. I didn't have family to support. So I wanted to go and take risks.
Take bigger risks.
Right.
You had that ability to do that. So yeah, it benefited you. It worked out. Yeah. It's a positive. When you have that ability to take that risk, take it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Jim, circling back to your day to day. So in terms of like a sales and marketing pipeline, the awareness, like how you find candidates, is typically through LinkedIn. You've upgraded to LinkedIn Recruiting, the premium option, and you mostly just you would type in area, these skills or this title, and then you go and you look for your candidates, and that's so. One of the things
project and you start reaching out. Yep. But really what happens is very rarely do I have a job opening, reach out to Bentley and place it. Now that does happen. But what really happens and where I feel my longevity has been beneficial to me and why I have longevity in the industry is really recruiting is all network. It's all relationship. Because I might talk to Bentley today and maybe I won't have anything for him for 4 or 5 months. I mean, I might have something for him right now, but more often than not, I've established contact with Bentley. We've developed a relationship, whether that's LinkedIn, texting, phone calls, Teams meetings. We've established a relationship. We've gotten to know each other. I've really gotten an understanding of who he is, what his goals are, what he's trying to accomplish. And it's that network. It's that network that you want to build as a recruiter. And I think that would also carry on. And if you're a aspiring data analyst, you want to build that network. You want to build those relationships.
Right.
Because timing's everything, right? And it may not happen now, but with your network and your relationships, it can happen. There's been so many great things that have occurred because of networking, because of relationships, i.e. you and I talking right now is through our network.
Right, yeah.
That's how we got together. So there's just so many things that can unfold when you make it more about people and connecting and understanding.
Right. So
a lot of things start with LinkedIn, but that's just the seed in the ground. Now you've got to water it, you've got to cultivate it, you've got to really make it grow and flourish. And if you do that, there's going to be fruit from it.
Right.
If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. So essentially what it is, it's a long-term game you're playing. So you're not trying to optimize. Because I see this, I have a lot of people who are already in kind of a tight spot, like financially, like maybe they've been laid off and it's like, I need a job next week. And it's like, well, you should have started looking, 6 months ago, or you should have started developing these kinds of relationships a year, 2 years, 5 years ago, so that you can kind of make that smooth transition versus having to fight tooth and nail to get an opportunity, which also too, that kind of puts you in a scarcity mindset where you might take something that's well beneath what you are actually, worth. And that really hurts your long-term trajectory of your career.
Yeah. And like you said, even if you're in a good spot and before anything were to happen, if you're on LinkedIn, then you should be networking. You should be growing your network. You should always be connecting with folks, reaching out, letting people reach out to you. So many times, people get reached out by these annoying recruiters, and it's like, well, you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. The fact that someone's reaching out to you, first of all, that says something about who you are. You're someone people want to reach out to. Don't be so quick to shut them down. You might not be open to a new opportunity now. You might not be looking. You might think might be going great for you.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you should close off the growth of your network. That it should be the opposite. It really should.
It's almost like an insurance plan now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, you could look at that as an insurance plan. You could look at it when something is to happen, and now you find yourself needing that opportunity. Well, if you had that network, you could quickly reach out to your network.
Right. And I guess that's something that I've started to notice as I've gotten older. So when I was younger, I was focused on what am I doing right now? What is the next thing? But, I'm 34 now, so I'm starting to think about, well, what's the next 5 years going to look like? What's the next 10, 15? And then when you start looking at it from that lens, it starts to make sense of like, all right, what are the strategic kind of relationships I can start to develop? Because, there's so many things. Like, I don't know why, but risk mitigation has hit me so hard. I don't know. 34 is the year for me of like, you got to manage your risk. Because, you might be happy now, but like maybe in 6 months, your manager leaves, you get somebody who micromanages you.
Sure.
And you hate it. So if you've built that relationship with a recruiter, you can, and you might, it doesn't need to be one recruiter. It could be like a whole range of them.
No, I would suggest not just working with one recruiter. I would suggest building that network, not just recruiters either, leaders in business,
right?
People that are of interest in what you're doing, making those connections, being known in the industry for who you are. And so you will be seen as someone who can be a key player in whatever you're doing. That might be also putting out some content, really branding you as an individual and what you're doing, and really being known and being people, so people are aware of you in the industry, so that if something does happen, it's an easier transition to your next opportunity. And by doing so, you may not be looking for your next opportunity, but an opportunity that you couldn't pass up is going to reach out to you. So that's where you want to position yourself. And I know that is a best case scenario, right? It's not a perfect world. We know that. But in a perfect world, you want opportunities coming to you when you don't need them. You don't really want to be chasing an opportunity when you're in a dire situation. So if you can create that atmosphere, if you can create that canvas for yourself, then when something does happen, you'll be better off. And that means recruiters, that means business leaders, that means companies, that means people like you. What you're doing right now is really changing the face of employment. You're bringing a whole nother side that many people probably didn't think of. The way you're doing it.
Right. When we had that coffee, you're like, oh, so you're essentially creating the supply of candidates.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well,
it really is.
You. Okay. So one question, kind of building off of that last thought, how could someone go about building these relationships? Is it just as simple as okay, I guess the starting point is building some type of digital footprint that lures recruiters in and say, hey, this person's done some things. They look pretty sharp. I've read their posts, or, they're showing up on keyword searches on LinkedIn. How do you go about building and reinforcing those long-term relationships?
Yeah. So like you said, digital footprint, but also footprint that isn't so digital, being a part of some groups, being a part of some networking events, being part of associations that are in your industry. I'll use HR as an example. If you're an HR professional, and it doesn't really matter what level, but if you're an HR professional here in the greater Greensboro area, sign up for every HR function, HR group you can sign up to be with. You don't have to go to every event, but you want to become known. You want to become known, and you're really just building your own foundation. I'm sure in analytics, there are groups. You probably founded them, but there are groups. You made one right now. We're on it. But be a part of these groups. Be a part of these groups. Know what's happening in real time. know what's going on in your industry, know how business and the market has changed your industry, and just be on the pulse, for lack of better terminology. Be on the pulse.
So just engage.
Engaged.
Yeah.
If you want to not engage, well, there's going to be the effects of that as well. So it's really, you want to be well-rounded in that effect. You really want to be involved. Because if you're going into this industry, it's because you enjoy it. So pour yourself into it. Meet people. Meet other people that do what you do. Network. It doesn't have to consume your life. It could be join some groups, attend once a quarter, once a month, whatever you can do, and just be involved in there.
Gotcha.
That would be my best advice for somebody.
Yeah. No. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on. This has been,
of course.
I feel like a lot of people have heard the generic advice of recruiters are a way to get a job, but it's like you're actually getting to see your perspective on things. So that, because the next question I want to ask is, are there any red flags of like, okay, I'm going to end my relationship with this person? Or because I'm thinking about it from your perspective, bringing up risk mitigation. The worst thing, I guess, a negative outcome for you, maybe not the worst thing, is if you place somebody and they're a bad fit. And then, if that happens too many times, it's going to potentially endanger that relationship with the client. So I guess what you're doing, and I think people miss this in interviews a lot, is that they want to just like basically talk about their skills, talk about their experience, but there's a whole other aspect to it of like, are you palatable to be around? Like, are you ethical? Because those are things that potentially could damage your reputation with your client base, right?
Absolutely. So you make a great point. So I would say number one thing companies are looking for is your skill. Close number two is your soft skills. Mm-hmm. You could be the best at what you do, but if people can't stand being around you,
right,
you're not going to be there. And if they keep you there, then what that business owner has done is they've created this environment that nobody wants to be a part of. So all of your people are going to leave, especially if they're good and talented people. They're going to go to the companies that foster a collaborative environment. Now, I'm not saying you got to be, the life of the party and you've got to be the cheerleader. And when you walk in the room, everyone's laughing and joking around, but you want to be a pleasant person to be around in general. Yeah. So the soft skills are important. You know what I mean? They want the skill set, but they want someone who is going to be collaborative, have understanding, have empathy, someone who's a good listener, but really coachable.
Coachable. Okay. So it sounds like that's the big one.
Right. Because John David, a lot, but something tells me that you're always willing to learn more.
Yeah. Right? I mean, you're seeing it unfurl in real time. I'm learning right now from you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm flattered that you think that. But we're all continually learning. Nobody really arrives to that.
Yep. I have been told I have destination addiction. Where I keep feeling like I'm going to work hard and then one day I'm going to arrive and it's going to be, amazing. And it's going to be, but then it's like, as soon as I get to that next peak, I'm like, well, what's the next thing?
Well, it's like you're going to get to that next peak and you're going to, wow, there's so much more to see.
Right.
I want to go higher.
Right. As opposed to just enjoying where I'm at and like enjoying the process of going, not, okay, once I get to that destination, then that's it.
You hear some of these really profound leaders and, when they foster that environment where someone who is new or someone who is less experienced is given a voice, that's where innovation comes from. Innovation is not going to come from the person that's been in it for 40 years, right? It's going to come from the next generation that sees it through a different lens. And that goes right back to why companies desire, quote unquote, aspiring candidates. Because the canvas of business has changed so much in the last 3 years. And it's just changing more rapidly, and companies are finally realizing what needs to be done not just to attract, but retain and keep their workforce engaged. You've heard of the term that recently came out called quiet quitting.
Yeah.
Well, people have been quiet quitting since the dawn of time, right? We just never put a name to it, but now it's been made aware to business leaders and they're thinking about the bottom line. So if half their staff is quiet quit, well, they're losing out on much more opportunity. So now they know we've got to engage. And how do we do that? We stimulate our workforce, and that might mean giving someone a voice. That might mean helping someone grow in their knowledge and in their career.
So on that topic of engaging and helping with growth, let's head over to, I'm going to pull in Bentley and Brittany, and we're going to have them ask you some questions about, your day-to-day, just recruiting in general.
Hey guys. Hello again.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. So who's first? Bentley, Brittany?
Sure. So Jim, you talked about skills and then soft skills. And one of the things I've been hearing a lot, and talking with other members of this cohort and people who have gotten a job through the apprenticeship program, when they interview, at least for entry-level jobs, that, the soft skills kind of outweigh the hard skills as long as the person is competent and able to learn those hard skills. So because you sort of, you said first, first of all, the skills and then the soft skills. So I guess maybe does it differ for an entry-level job, and how does those things balance out?
You nailed it on the head, Bentley. Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to entry-level positions, I would say the soft skills are gonna have it's going to be more advantageous. And then that'll go back to are you coachable? Have you shown interest in your role, which you have if you're in an apprenticeship program and you're getting an education that way and you're trying to break into the field. So yes, I would say from your perspective, definitely soft skills. They have to like you.
Sure, of course.
They've got to like you. That if people aren't going to tell you this, but it doesn't even matter if you're entry level or if you're a very tenured person. Someone's got to like you who's going to hire you. That's just the way it goes.
Makes sense.
Likability is on a sliding scale and it's fluid. But that goes back into if you created that network. Now it's like, hey, Jim, I'm interviewing with John David for his position. Do you know him? I see you guys are connected. Oh, I know John David. He's great. Tell me about him. If you know something about somebody, you're going to become more likable, So it all goes back to networking. It all goes back to building your brand, But yeah, I would agree with you 100%. Yes.
Well, Jim,
you got to have that skill set, but the entry-level person, they got to like you. You got to have that soft skill. Yes.
Jim, you also hit on a concept of, if I'm hiring Bentley and I know you and you know Bentley and you vouch for him, that's incredibly valuable.
Huge. Because
that's social proof, because it's like I'm basically leaning on you and your judgment. And also, too, you're a non-biased third party at that point. Right. So it's not like, you're not incentivized to place Bentley with me because you'd be paid. It's just like I guess the risk there is also that relationship to me. So if you lie to me about Bentley, then that's going to potentially hurt our relationships.
Yes. Also, hey Bentley, one more thing too. And you probably know this, soft skills too. But from an entry level perspective, I think more so too, they want to see the passion.
That makes sense.
They want to see that, because if you're entry level and you've got some education and you may have some experience and you're very likable, but he's just going through the motions. I mean, if you're passionate about it, and I don't mean over the top, this guy's way too much, but you can hear it in someone's voice and in their body language when they really are enjoying what they're doing or what they're trying to get involved in. Does that make sense?
It makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
Awesome.
Excited to learn. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Bentley, you're very passionate. Me and Katie have talked about it. We're like, yeah.
Glad to hear it.
You're like so excited to get into this, and
I know one of my favorite things is like when I can't figure something out, and then I'm like searching and searching, or I ask somebody who I know, how do I figure out this problem, or I find it. It's like I get super pumped when I figure something out like that.
Awesome.
So,
yeah, it's rewarding.
Yeah.
Brittany, you have any questions?
Yeah, actually, you spoke to passion and the eagerness to have, have a position. And I'm pivoting actually from the recruiting industry into the business analytics.
Cool.
So from one recruiter to another, I'm interested to know when it comes to how eager or passionate someone is about applying for a position, what makes you open an in-mail? Like you probably get plenty, right? As a recruiter, you get many. As an applicant, you get many. But when they reach out to you after they apply, they say, I've applied for the XYZ position. And then they're introducing themselves or just letting you know that they applied. What really grabs you and what really gets you to open that in-mail in LinkedIn?
That's a great question. So are we asking from like an entry level candidate, or are we asking from someone who's been at it for most of their career? Because it would be different for me.
Yeah, both. If you could speak to both.
Yeah. So when it comes to like an entry level person, if they're reaching out to me, more often than not, then they're eager to get something in their field. So when you get that in-mail, you can read the first couple lines, right? That's what you got. I'm scanning again, with all of the in-mails coming, with all the resumes I have to go through, I'm scanning. So you got to catch the attention, make it a quick billboard, make it your elevator pitch. Jim, this is Bentley. I'm passionate about data. And I've done this, and that. Can we talk? Boom. When I get an in-mail and I might click on it and I see this big long essay, I'm like, oh gosh, no. Be concise. The art of conciseness has gone away. Somewhere along the line, someone said the more words you throw at somebody, the more important it is. And maybe so, but right now, if you're in that position as an entry-level person trying to break in and create a network, conciseness. Everyone's busy. Everyone's got a million things going on. And quite frankly, it saves you time from having to draft something, but it also helps you to learn that art of conciseness. Be concise. You know what I mean? For somewhere down the line, people lost that skill set. Concise. Boom. Mm-hmm. Jim, it's Bentley. I love data. This is what I've done. Can we talk? Boom. I'd probably be more interested in talking to you than, hey, Jim, this is Bentley. And you've got, when I first started riding a bike, my mom always said I was going to be a data analyst. Come on, man. Be concise. I don't want to ramble, but be concise. Yeah. And that goes along too with tenured. Be concise, but bullet point it out. Make it easy. Make it easy for me to scan it, or a recruiter to scan it, or a business leader to go, what's this about? Boom. Oh yeah. Let's connect. Let's talk. So.
I do have another question. I'm curious to know how you feel. And I don't know if they do this or if you do this, you can be honest, but we see a lot when we're transitioning from, one industry to another, or we're just breaking into this, to this field. A lot of times you can even filter for an entry-level position. Yes, sure. Sometimes it'll say entry-level, but at the same time, it'll say 3 to 5 years of experience. It will have qualifications in there that make an applicant say, I'm entry-level, but this doesn't feel entry-level. When I read the description, it feels a little bit like, and I know personally from being a recruiter, a lot of times it's a wish list, but if you could speak to, what you've seen and how you feel about the term entry level versus, but it also includes, 3 to 5 years experience.
Right. Good point. Great question. The term entry level somehow lost its definition. So when it says entry level, 3 to 5 years experience needed in this. Well, whoever posted that job just is misunderstanding what entry level means. You know what I mean? Entry level is, I want to bring someone in who has the passion and the aptitude to come on in and learn and really develop into that role. So when someone says entry level, 3 to 5 years experience, you know what that means? I'm cheap.
I have not heard that before, but that rings
brutal.
a bell
I know
right
that was
there.
brutal. I'm probably gonna get some hate mail. 3 to 5 years experience. This is entry level. It means I want to pay under market, and I do not want to put the time in to develop somebody, because a true entry level position is someone who doesn't have the experience. They might have some of the knowledge. They've put some time in to get some of the knowledge. They need someone who is going to bring them in and teach them and train them and let them grow in that and be a part of that. So when I see a posting 3 to 5 years entry level, A, it's not entry level. B, you want to pay under market. And C, you don't want to pour into anybody. You're cheap in more ways.
I think a lot of times what I see is the salary that is commensurate with what they're looking for is the entry level part of this.
That's all they really mean, isn't it? It's entry level because I'm paying entry level. You know what I mean?
All right, so Gregory Morris is saying his hunch is that they're trying to take advantage of the layoffs to underpay people.
Gregory Morris had that's a great comment.
So that's interesting.
Part of the shift. So in 2022, most of the placements I made 52 placements last year. That was one a week. Most of them was for a salary increase.
Interesting.
Companies were willing to pay. They're willing to pay. Candidates looking for a new opportunity, the great reshuffle, whatever you want to call it. It was a candidate's market last year for most of the year, for most industries, other than big tech. So candidates have the leverage. So I'll use one example because it comes to mind right now. Local company here in the Greensboro market, hiring for a position in their personnel department. Out-of-state candidate presented. This candidate, strong candidate, multiple offers. The company that got her was a company that paid $20,000 over than what she was presented at. She was presented at a certain amount that she was targeting. She had multiple offers. Hey, I've got these offers. The company that got her paid her $20,000 over what she was originally asking for, increased her PTO, paid for all of her relocation, including temporary housing. That was 2022. To Gregory's point, I am now seeing the opposite take place.
Oh, so it's like a supply. It's economics 101, supply demand differentials.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
I'm seeing more companies say, okay, well, we really want to pay XYZ. Well, that's $10,000 below market. I can generate a report for you that shows you in this area with your competitors for this type of worker, you should probably be about this much money. Well, let's see what we can get for a little less. That's what's happening right now. Where last year was like, hey, we want to pay X. Well, I mean, everyone's paying X. Do you want to attract somebody to your company? You need to pay more, or we'll pay more. Get me the right person. It's totally changed. Like you said, it fall off a cliff. Someone slammed on the brakes. To Gregory's point, yeah, he's right.
We're seeing that. I mean, in our own apprentices, like we the last 2 episodes before this, where our student Rachel actually got an offer with a local Greensboro company, and we were going to the last episode. She had received her offer, and then we gave her coaching on salary negotiation, and they said we're firm. Versus last year, we were able to negotiate up. One of our students was $20,000 higher than the offer.
Nice.
I mean, so it's funny because I think at first I was like, man, are we getting worse at this? And it's like, no, there are outside pressures on us that like we have no effect over because the advice was essentially the same. But it's just, and also too, I mean, different companies, different sizes of companies, different markets, different positions. So there's so many different factors.
So many different factors. One of the biggest factors I've come across is if the company is here locally, but their corporate office or headquarters is out of country, there is less wiggle room. Corporate in another country will say, hey, we're paying this for this role. Leaders at the organization locally here, HR, talent acquisition can say, hey, you really need to do this. And they will say, well, no, we won't. Okay, we won't. I mean, them sticking to their ceiling is more important to them than actually getting a talented person in. So I've seen that happen a couple times this year too.
Okay, well, hey, Jim, I know you've got a hard stop at 1,
I do.
but I wanted to end the live stream so that we could actually talk business. Because I think these
Absolutely.
students might actually be a good fit for some of your positions.
Awesome.
But I didn't want to live stream that
No, I get it.
conversation. So
Yeah.
thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate the comments. It's made the conversation great. And Jim and Bentley and Brittany, let's stay on this, and we'll just pull off the live stream. Thanks everybody.